while
Yeah.
you guys come on in? Oh, yeah? Mm, mm.
You're a
Well, I
much
think
better
Sue
dancer.
I was just thinking the same thing about you. People are gonna get to hear our pre-talk before they come on in. I love this, you guys. Come on in. Tell us in the chat who you are, what you do, what do you tutor, where are you from? We're just kind of relaxing to the music here. I like this. Music, we can use music AI. I love this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You have
I
no
like.
idea what song's gonna come on up, but you just go with it.
Oh, I was going to say we could have practiced our dance moves and been in
Oh,
synchronization
we could
there.
have, yeah, we totally could have been. We'd be like, she's got the moves. She's got the moves, you guys. I love it. Well, welcome. We are so glad that you guys are here today. My name is Joanne Kaminski, the online tutor business coach, and I am here to share with you one of my favorite people, Suzanne Davis. Now, I met Suzanne back in 2016. I know, it feels like forever ago. I mean, that was 7 years ago. Holy cow. Time goes by so fast. When she came into our community, she was one of those back row people. Let's not turn on the camera and let's just kind of like hang on out and do our thing, right? So I loved it. She was able to just be who she was, and that was amazing. I loved it. Then she became a coach for the online tutor coach, and the very first time that I launched the Jumpstart program in 2020, she joined us. She's a leader in the Insider Secrets Club 3.0, and she has spoken at every single impact that we have had. So we are having Impact come up again. She's going to be a speaker again. And the title of this Impact is Get More Students at Impact 5. You are not going to want to miss it. Put it on your calendar for January 19th to the 21st and join us inside of that amazing event. There is no sign up page yet. We'll be sending a sign up page in January. So this is a free event that you guys will be able to come on in. And those of you that would like to upgrade to the VIP instant access pass, you'll be able to do that as well. You have helped so many people, Suzanne, in so many different capacities, from Pinterest to blogging to helping them in Jumpstart. What motivated you to dive into helping tutors with EdTech?
Well, way back when we first started the Jumpstart Your Online Tutoring business, um, we would have this week, and it was like the EdTech week, right? Where I think it was week 3, where people who were getting started would just start to learn about the different tools that were out there. And one of them was my absolute favorite that people kept talking about, which is Google Classroom. By the way, I'm a huge Google Classroom super fan. I've been using it from literally day one of when it came out to every type of Google user. Uh, and I found myself in that week just really kind of coming alive and being really expressive and saying, well, hey, if you want a little extra time, I can spend, an extra 5-10 minutes and show you around Google Classroom. And then eventually it became other tools added into that, like different whiteboards and things like that. And I thought, I'm really loving this, and tutors get such a gain from just somebody taking the time to kind of go through and work with them, and saying, hey,
Yeah.
try this and see how it goes. And I loved it. And it wasn't something that I anticipated loving,
Hmm.
but it just was like kismet. It really came
Yeah.
alive.
I love it. I love it. So it's just kind of like based off of really what you were enjoying, what you liked inside of your business and what you were utilizing and using and being able to show people the things that you loved about EdTech.
Yes. And I would say starting out, I didn't consider myself a techie at all. In fact, one of the reasons that I was hanging back for so long, when you talked about that in the introduction for me, was because I couldn't just find the right tools. And I had kept listening to people who said, oh, you need this, you need a whiteboard. And I was like, I don't know whether I need that for teaching academic writing, or if it's the right one, or if it would do this. And I kind of hung back, and tried a few things. So I definitely came from that lack of teaching online experience, and just that hesitancy with
Yeah.
with EdTech, and thinking,
Yeah.
am I going to be able to teach as well as I can in the classroom? And then
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. Like by the second class I taught, I was like, okay, I found my Zen. This is
Yes.
this is working for me. These systems that I've put in place, these tools that I'm using within the lessons, and it really pulled itself together, and I felt like I was actually doing a better job.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd have to say and you've done a great job too of really supporting people now as they are getting started, like, "Okay, I wanna tutor online, but I'm kinda scared of the tech." And you're like, "Look, I can help you with that." And you've even created a free Facebook group to be able to help those tutors. So if you guys are interested in joining that free Facebook group, there Beth just put a link inside of the description. Click on that link so that you have the opportunity to get the Facebook group sent to you, and you can go through the process of learning how to use the different tech tools. Um, Before we kinda go on into more about that group, let's talk about the 5 misconceptions that tutors have about tech. So what is the first misconception that tutors have about tech?
That I need a lot of it. That I There's so many complicated things, and I need so much to be able to teach uh, good lessons. And
Yeah,
so I would say to that person is, actually, you don't need that many tools to have a really good online tutoring lesson. Um, I remember when I first met you, Joanne, you really inspired me because you said, well, you started in 2010. You said, I was just using PowerPoint and sharing my screen, and I could still do the letters for reading and the same types of things. And I was like, really? I At the time I was like, I don't even need a whiteboard. I don't even need these things. And
mhm,
so I would definitely say to people who are overwhelmed and they think they've got to learn a lot of tech, just go back to what you actually need in working with your students.
yeah,
What are those basic skills that you're going to be using, and then what is out there that you feel confident using?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did start with just a PowerPoint that I would share with my students, and that PowerPoint kinda turned into my whiteboard in a way, because Skype didn't have any kind of whiteboard or anything like that, and I started on Skype, and so what I did is I just shared a screen. Now at that point, I didn't know I did a lot of I made one of the biggest mistakes out there that I think a lot of other tutors make, and that is I didn't know the resources available to me online. So I thought I had to take all of the books that I had and that I turned them into PowerPoint books. Now the cool thing
Wow.
about that was I could actually write on those books, right? And I could like when the kid got stuck on a word, I could help them with that word and help them figure it out. And I could do pretty much everything that I do today, but I didn't realize all the books that were really available to me online at that point in time and what resources were available. So that was like a lot of wasted time that I spent in creating those PowerPoint books because I've not touched one of those PowerPoint books probably since that first year of teaching. I wish
Oh,
I would have known like I already knew about like Raz Kids that existed, but I didn't think about using it. I don't know why. And I think that happens to a lot of us. We just think about like, what are the tools I use when I teach in person? And how do I use those tools? And we don't think about, okay, what does the online stratosphere kind of put on out there that I could utilize as well? And for those people that are like, I'm not a techie, don't try to learn all the tech at once.
no.
Learn one at a time and go from there. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? Like sometimes we overcomplicate the heck out of it. There is some tech that you do have to get to know right out of the gate, and we'll share that in a second. What is the second misconception that people have, Suzanne?
I would say that if I don't have good tech skills, I can't be a good online tutor.
Mm.
And I know I would say to that person, all you have to do is be a good, passionate tutor and get a little help from other tutors and other friends out there to help you with learning these things and learning some of the skills.
Mhm.
It always starts with how can you communicate? Can you share a screen? No. Can you have some basic materials that you're showing the student? Do you have a place where you can store your materials? Like really simple basic things are what you need starting out. And you might need a whiteboard if you're teaching math or certain subjects. But usually, if you start talking and communicating with people in your niche, you can find out some of the basic things that you'll need, um, and they'll tell you how to use it. That's the other
Yeah.
thing, because they know they use it every day. You know,
A lot of tutors are so happy to be able to show you how to use something. So when you
absolutely.
you
They
make
get,
friends with people, I mean, that's the beautiful part about our community, right? Like inside of our community, somebody's always like, "Oh, if you want, I have some time after this. I can show you how to use that if you'd like." And people are like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're always surprised by that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really the important thing. There's always people that are gonna be there to help you. What is the next misconception that people have?
That it takes a long time to learn something,
Mm,
and I I understand that in a way
mhm.
because I've done that where I've looked up, oh, I really want to use this program with my students, and I fall down the YouTube video maze trying to learn something. And in that case, it does take me a long time to learn something. Um, but I find if I'm digging into it and getting some sort of like guided help, it takes maybe an hour to learn something. It takes a much shorter amount of time
Mhm.
to learn whatever it is you need to be able to use. I'm sure that with reading A to Z, you can get people up to speed on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's really easy for people to get lost inside of there too because there's so many resources and tools. So,
Right.
I mean, for me, I go to like 3 basic places when I go inside of there. So it's not like I have to know where everything is, but I do now know where everything is inside of that program because not only did I work with the company and how can we utilize this best with tutors and all that kind of stuff, but I have watched every single video that they have put on out there and created on trainings on how to use their program as well, because I was really interested in how can I make sure that I'm using this to the best of its ability, because sometimes you can just learn the basic features of a tool and that's all you need in the beginning. You don't need
Yeah.
every single advanced piece of tool in order to use that tool or use it well. If you see a use for it in the beginning, you can begin using it in that way right off and then slowly continue to learn about the different features and how it can help support you with your business, right? Versus trying to feel like I have to learn all of this at once. And sometimes some tools aren't worth knowing how to learn right away. Like maybe you put it
Exactly.
on the I'm going to learn about this tool later down the list,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
I
I have like three questions I ask myself before I decide whether I'm going to integrate it. The first one is this really going to help my students learning? Just right off the bat, is it going to help them reach their goals? If not, I'm prone to shiny object syndrome. And I'm prone to finding a tool and thinking, oh, how can I use it with my student? But really, that first question should be, is this going to benefit them and help them learn, or help me get organized better as a tutor to teach something? And then I always ask myself, am I confident using this right now? Because if I'm not confident using it, then that really goes on to my, I'm going to spend the time on it a little later. And then the other thing I look at when deciding something is kind of my 5 minute or less rule. If my student is going to have to be using the same thing from the other side, it has to be something that's really easy to get going with them. If I find I'm taking more than 5 minutes to explain something, or like where to find something, then I know that I've got to work on either preparing them in another way with videos or something, or just skipping it until I feel like they're at a point where they can be familiar and work with it. So, yeah. So, in the beginning, I was like, oh, I can find things that maybe help with my student, but I was still kind of learning how to adapt from things that I had already done. And so it took a while for me to be able to answer yes to all of those questions.
Yeah. And I think that's important too. Like, if you do learn about a new tool, it's not like you have to begin implementing it tomorrow, right? Take the time that you need to use it and do it well. Like Tibese said, people tend to overcomplicate stuff,
Yes.
and we don't need to make the learning online complicated process. Like, I literally share my screen. Like, that's how I did my teaching for the longest time. And I did that because my students were too young to open up their own website and go different places. Like, I had to be the one who was in control. When you're working with a kid in first and second grade, they're not gonna know how to navigate things online, click on the link, do all that kind of stuff. Even though you know, they're born into a tech world, they still don't know how to do some of those things because they're not age appropriate. So just being
Right.
able to share the screen, I was able to do everything that I needed to do. When Koala Go came on out, I looked at that and I was like, "This is complicating the heck out of something," when it first came out. So, I first met those guys over in 2021. I got onto a call with them, and I'm like, "This is great and all, but this is overcomplicating it. Like,
Right.
here are the simple things that I need to be able to do," because it doesn't I am not the type of person who's creating my lessons ahead of time. My lessons are based off of my students and their needs. So, to have to prepare now every single classroom before a lesson, that's like adding hours and upon hours onto my day that I just don't have. So then when they changed over their system so that I could share my screen, so that I could write on their whiteboard, so that I could use the tools that they had in a much more better way than I was doing before, that's when I was willing to move on over, because I was like, "Okay, now we have a system in place that I can still do the type of teaching that I do, but I can also bring the gamification piece into it as well." And so it wasn't an overnight decision for me. It was a decision based on timing, and the tools are constantly changing too on top of it because they're trying to become better and better. And that's what this particular program was doing, Koala Go. So really, really great things to know. Let's talk about people's thoughts about pricing and what they think about tech tools. What's a misconception that people have about pricing?
I think one of them is that they have to get everything and pay for everything. And really, you can pick and choose and budget. So there were a few really top things that were really important to me in the beginning. And what I did was I followed your advice. I thought of how many tutoring sessions would I have to get to be able to afford that tool. And when I reframed it in that mind, I was like, okay, I can afford Zoom. because Zoom is going to help me if I can go beyond those 40 minutes and have an hour and have group sessions. That's going to really benefit me and my students. And, at the time, I felt like it had a lot of better features than everything else out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's worth the investment, right? But
Yes.
I didn't have to invest in other tools. There were other things that I could use for kind of being able to share and store all of my things, like Google Classroom, or some people even use like Google Drive and Google Folders and sharing work. And so those were things that I could say, I don't need to spend money on those, but really just finding, I think, the few that I felt were essential. I know for reading tutors, like reading A to Z or something equivalent is a really important one. I know for people who have to get certain assessments, sometimes they're doing that and they have to get a certain amount of licenses and it can add up. So budget for that, and then think of the other tools that you don't need to have
Yeah.
everything all set up for.
I just think it does come down to prioritizing. And, you know, in the beginning too, whenever I see a new tool, I want to go for the cheaper price and automatically go for the yearly. But what I've realized is I don't need all of these tools on the yearly. Or I
Yeah,
might only need that tool for a month. And so if that is the case, then I'm going to check it out for the month and see, is this a tool that I even use that I need to pay for? Right. There's a
right.
lot of free tools online too that you don't have to pay anything for. Right. And I think it's important to know what are those free tools that you can utilize that don't cost anything. But some of the basic ones, like we are making money from our tutoring business. And hopefully
Exactly.
you're charging what you are worth, right? If I'm paying $200 for Zoom for the year, and I break that down into I've got 20 students, I'm definitely making that money back easily. I'm making that money back with just even having one student. I'm making that money back. And it gives me all the freedom to be able to teach as long as I want on their platform. So it's a no-brainer to add a tool like that into the mix. But these subscriptions, they can add up.
They can.
So you have to keep, I think you do have to keep like a list of the subscriptions that you have in one place so you can evaluate and determine, do I still need that? Do I not need that? Do I use that? Do I not use that? And if you've brought in a subscription that you thought you were going to use more, but you don't use it as much as you thought, it is time to get rid of it and let it go for sure.
Yes.
Because we want the bottom line to be, you want a higher ROI, right? And if we have all the money going into these subscriptions, then it's gonna eat at you. But really think about what are the 3 tools that I need in order to run my business, because any tutoring business can run on just 3 basic tools.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
yeah, so for me, one of them was Zoom.
Yep.
Zoom at the time included a really bad whiteboard, but I didn't need the whiteboard much.
Yep.
Um, uh, for tutoring academic writing. I don't know if we mentioned that in the introduction, but that's my specialty. And so I needed, some place where I could be storing and sharing my materials. So for me at the time, and still that's Google Classroom, because I could have that interaction, which is a free tool. But for somebody else, it might be worth it to get like a small subscription to Bubble Up or something like that. Bubble Up is a place where you can create folders and attach different articles or videos or things like that, and then share it with other people. So, if you've got certain reading activities or math activities that you want people to be able to access outside of class, or subscriptions even that link to that, that's a really simple tool that you can use. And there's other ones like that. Um,
Yeah.
So having something like that is really useful in the beginning. Um, and then of course, you want really your good hardware and things like that, but that's not ed tech. Something to write with or type with, with the
Mhm.
students. For me, it's Google Docs. For you, you used OneNote a lot with
Mhm.
students. Um, so pretty simple things. Um, and if you are somebody who says, oh, well, I have my textbook and things like that, there's, you know, you could get a huge document camera, and again, share your screen that way.
Yeah. And
So
take a look
very few
too, like
things.
people may have already created tools and resources for teaching that textbook online. So there's a
Ex-
lot of like Orton Gillingham tutors that are out there. Orton Gillingham tutors, if you go to Teachers Pay Teachers, you're going to see that there's a ton of resources that people have already created. Or if you go to wordwall.net, you're going to see that they've already like uploaded all of the word lists and things that they're working on inside of there. So take a look and see like what already exists that's online that goes with the curriculum or the textbook or the program that I use to be able to help kids with what it is that they're struggling with. So definitely check out those different resources and tools. All right. So what are the tools that you said? Let's pretend we have somebody who is actually brand new. They have not started online tutoring. What would you suggest for them are the most important things that they need to learn about ed tech right out of the gate?
the tools that they're actually going to use for the teaching lesson, whether it's something that involves like writing or more typing or reading, something for science, like those essential tools that you'll need to teach that subject. Um, Definitely, you need a video conferencing um, format. You don't even need it to be Zoom. Like I've known a lot of people who've had success with Google Meet because you can share your screen. It has subtitles and it connects to whiteboards. Um, so there's different ones like that, investigating really the advantages and disadvantages. And that's where, you know, the way I do that with just about everything is I ask other tutors who's using this, who's using that, how do you like it?
Yeah.
Um, for Koala Go, the same thing you can ask. Um, and then definitely something where you are organizing your lessons and have like those shared materials for your clients. Um, because, well, maybe not so much with the younger students, but you still might have things with parents that you want
Mhm.
them to be able to access on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
So
And for
that
me, I
could
just have
be,
the one subscription and that's like Kids A to Z. So I have them,
yeah,
I show them how to like get on in and here's what how you can access it so your child can do some sessions in between our tutoring sessions. But yeah, I don't have too many things that I'm sharing with the students. But yeah, a sharing platform. If you've been working with the older students, middle school, high school, and you're giving feedback on different assignments or those kinds of things, you want to have a way to for them to submit things to you so you can look them over and have a simple system in place. Like it does not have to be complicated at all.
no, it doesn't. I mean, being the Google Classroom super fan that I am going to rock and say, Google Classroom. But I've known people who do awesome things with Google folders
Mhm.
now, and for a way of exchanging things and even Dropbox. Um, but yeah, and then see, do you need a subscription for something?
Yeah.
For the actual materials, like do you need a subscription to get books? ESL, would it be prudent for you because you're preparing somebody for a particular exam
Uh-huh.
to get a certain curriculum for that? And there's different places that you can go um, for good ESL curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah. I
yeah.
love it. I love it.
Oh,
So
and
tell us more.
assessments if you use
Yeah.
assessments. I don't use a formal assessment. I have an informal assessment.
Mm-hmm.
That's for writing. But other people do want to like narrow down a grade level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be useful in math, and it can be useful in reading specifically to have like, okay, let's find out what we're dealing with. Where are you starting from so that we can fill those gaps and know exactly what they are. Knowing, so if you're going to use an assessment, get comfortable with using some kind of assessment. If you're not going to, not everybody has to use an assessment.
No, not at all.
And reading, parents do want to know, like, well, how is my child doing and where are they at compared to all the other kids? Because that's what they're hearing in school, right? So they want
Yeah.
to have that similar kind of communication to know, is my child improving? Right. And you got to have a way to be able to tell them that their child, yes, they are improving. Here's the data that supports that. Otherwise, I mean, you could just be like, yeah, they're doing great. And that doesn't really mean anything, right? Because it's not really backed by any information. But if I say, yes, your child was reading at 50 words a minute when they started with me, but now they're reading at 70 words per minute. They've made such great grades. Such great progress. I'm really proud of them. It means something. They can actually see then, okay, she's backing this up, not just a compliment, but is backing it up with something. And that can be
Right.
really useful in the tutoring world. So again, not every topic needs it.
No.
It's that you teach. So just think about for yourself, do you need an assessment or do you not need an assessment? So tell us about your Facebook group and how it helps people who are struggling with EdTech.
Okay, great. So my Facebook is the EdTech Tutoring Tools community. It's specifically for online tutors and coaches who really are looking for those right solutions for them and to explore different ed tech to see if it's something that they should integrate or maybe just use on an occasional basis. So part of this group is really about trying things out.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the group, really, the thinking is between seeing how other tutors are using things and the things that are out there. So we have Facebook Lives where I'll be covering different types of tools right now. In the Facebook Live series, one of the issues that occurred to a lot of us was we were using Jamboard, which is a Google app, and it's like a virtual whiteboard, and now that's going away. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we're looking at really are what are good solutions or alternatives to that. And so part of it is seeing what that is in a Facebook Live, but then I also have practice sessions where we just show up, we look at the tool, I give a little bit of guidance as to like, here's where certain things are. And then we play with it together and figure out, getting your hands dirty and really practicing with other people is one of the best ways to figure out, hey, I can see this, for my students. And for me, this is really useful. Or, you know what? Maybe this doesn't do exactly what I need it to do. I want to see the next thing that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I really believe that kind of learning anything and really just taking your knowledge further, especially when it comes to learning a particular tech resource or skill, involves not just hearing about something or seeing something, but actually just having like that freedom to be with other people, talking about it and playing with it and
Mm-hmm.
figuring it out. And then of course just the community itself is a place for tutors of all different niches to be sharing what they're doing, what they're using, asking their questions, and of course having a say in what I'm going to be creating, because I want to create things that just aren't of the, oh, this is a popular thing that we're using. I want to actually meet the needs of the people in my community,
Yes,
because tutors'
100%.
needs are different than the
Yes.
classroom teacher. And a lot of times we see things because the tools were originally conceived of for the teachers. we
Mhm.
see them in that range. And, tutors are really the best people to get those ideas from, as to, hey, what are we doing now that this whiteboard's gone? Or, hey, I really want to know this about Google Classroom, and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just a free place for us all to do that. I welcome everybody to that, because I think it's a place where you're not just learning from me, but you're learning from other tutors, and we're experiencing EdTech in a variety of ways,
Yeah.
seeing it and using it.
Yeah. I mean, some of us worked in the school system, and at the school system, you had a tech guy. Like, a tech guy
Yeah.
could show you how to do different things, right? But when you start your own business, there's no tech guy. The tech guy goes away. And so, what do you do then, right? So, this community helps support people who are struggling with tech, learning new tech, trying to figure it out, getting your hands dirty, and not being afraid to try new things. And don't worry, you're probably not going to break something. It's going to be okay. There's always a fix to everything in the tech world. So, getting hands on with it, and figuring out how to use it is going to be a great way. So if you guys haven't yet, definitely go and join the group that um, I was going to say. I was going to try to grab the link again to grab it. But definitely grab that link. If Beth can put the link on inside again, that would be fantastic, so that you guys can join. Suzanne will then show you what to do next, so that you can get inside of that Facebook group. And that'll be a great way for you guys to begin learning the tech in a fantastic way, with lots of support from other people. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Suzanne, for coming. Again, Suzanne is actually speaking at our next Impact, January 19th to 21st. So save the date. My new
Yes.
book has come on out, the Tutors Manifesto. I'm going to be hitting that final publish button today on Amazon. So definitely check that out. And this is all about the journey that we go on as tutors in the tutoring world, and the mindset the mindset differences that we need to begin taking ourselves on while we go on that journey, and really the type of impact we could begin making on our students' lives. So definitely check that out. And it was so wonderful being able to chat with you today, Suzanne. I'm so excited about your new group, and being able to support tutors in this way, I think, is such a giving resource and tool for tutors to get on out there, try tech, and not be scared of it. Because you know what? We have to get over those hurdles. We got to get over those hurdles. When you get on the other side of fear, do you know what exists? Accomplishment. You feel like a superhero. You feel like, wow, I can do anything, right?
Exactly. There's immense joy in conquering any kind of fear. And, I would say I felt immense joy when it was tech, because
Yeah.
I have a brother who's like called the tech guy. And so for me to be able to kind of master this stuff and be better, it really, you're successful, but it also gives me great joy.
It does. It does. You're like, all right. Oh, okay. I can see how I could use this, and I can see
Yeah.
how this can benefit my students. Or, nah, I don't think this is quite what I need. Like, you really can make better decisions once you start playing with more and more tech, and you start being less fearful of the tech that's out there. Well, thanks for
Yes.
joining us today, you guys. Thank you for joining us, Suzanne, and sharing all about the different types of ed tech that exist on out there, how it can help us, and how we can get over some of those misconceptions we specifically have regarding tech. But really, how you just have to have those 3 tools, guys. 3 tools in the beginning. If you can master 3 tools in the beginning of tech, you're going to be able to run your online tutoring business like a pro. You guys got this, and we've got your back as well. Thanks for joining us today, you guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Cheers. Thank you.